Hello, chess friends. This is International Master Valeri Lilov, and welcome to today's lecture on YouTube. What we're going to be talking about today is a very important topic that's about one of the greatest ever chess books. And now I know that a lot of people don't agree with me on that, and they say it may not be. But I personally love it, and I think it is a fantastic book. There's a lot to learn from it, and anybody who ever wants to learn, I recommend you to check it out. It's called My System by Aron Nimzowitsch, and it's a brilliant book. So what we're going to be talking about today are a couple of things that I find very necessary. First of all, we're going to be talking about the key aspects that make this book so important and valuable, as well as what you can take from, not just from the book, but in terms of the keys which make people, especially the masters, say, if you study thoroughly, you should be becoming a master uh, in no less than 3 or 4 months. Now, again, it takes quite a few months to get through this book slowly, but it's that big, it's that great. Okay. Another important thing that you'd actually want to know, which I find also incredibly helpful, is how necessary the book is and why you should study. How to study a book like that big. So first we're going to start with an interesting question. How to attack in chess. So you see, Nimzowitsch, in fact, himself only discovered, in a missing opportunity when analyzing this game I'm going to show you. But essentially, I'm going to try to answer that fundamental question: how to set up an attack, a successful attack in almost any position. So we're going to see the game, which was actually played between Aron Nimzowitsch and Milan Vidmar. Let's take a look at this game. There's a great, there are some great ideas from it. So White started off with e4, and then basically what happened is that after e4, Black continued with, okay, so we have e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, knight f6, and bishop b5. This is known as the four knights defense. It's a pretty good opening. And then, but Black played bishop to b4, White castled short, Black castled short. Again, this was the moment where White has to decide how to exchange, how to play. We can exchange, we can do d3, or we can just go something else. Now, that's basically my first and initial question to you. What do you say White's got to do right now? This is a very important question. What should White do now? Take a moment to think. It is a big position. Now, first thing, I'd like you to think about each of the different candidates available in this moment and really figure out what is the most useful one. Just take a second and think. d3 or bishop takes the c6. I think that both moves are actually quite fine. See, I wouldn't recommend the move of bishop takes the c6 for the simple reason that, if we play with the move of bishop takes the c6, we are reaching out for something really fast. And usually these moves do not work. And most times when we go for something as quick, it loses. So this is why my favorite line is d3, which essentially Black plays with the move of bishop to the g5, d3, d6, bishop g5. Then in case Black plays bishop takes the c3, then we can play with the move of b takes to the c. We got the two bishops, we got the pin, and we have most of Black's own pieces backward. Now, the really interesting thing is that Nimzowitsch did not do that. He played bishop takes the c6. Now the exchange takes. So why? I just said that this wasn't supposed to be played. There is one thing. The first thing you need to understand about tactics is that when it comes down to tactics, you should never, presume that it may or may not be good. When it's about something positional or general, you could say, I presume that's probably not going to be good, and you're most likely going to be right. Because again, there's no way to calculate this. There's no way to know for sure. But whenever it comes down to an actual tactic, even if it's a very simple tactical sequence, you have got to calculate it. Calculation could show you something entirely different as opposed to what you're thinking. And indeed, in this case, for example, knight x to the e4 or anything similar, which he's supposed to be doing, may not work. White can have c3. Of course, now the good news is that after the exchange and the retake, knight x to the e5, black would have probably played rook e8, and then he could have, taken back the pawn. Anyway, take, take, take. But I guess this was an old game. It was played in 1911, almost a century and a few more earlier. So black simply took back with the b pawn. Takes. Now, this is not so interesting. So we're just playing through it to that stage so we can get to the really key point I'd like to show you. Takes, takes, and queen takes d4. Nimzowitsch, as a great master, knew that such a sequence usually gives him the time and space so he can launch his attack. Queen h4. And then he even played queen f3. The build-up was great. So there's no real problem. So far, so good. Bishop a5, a6, sorry. Now, white played knight to the c5, which was actually a pretty good move, attacking. I mean, at this point, we could see how almost everything white did was perfect. The setup, the development, the pieces, the command, it was just great. So black played bishop to the c4, and white even did bishop to the d4. See, there's no attack without a build-up. And in fact, white got it perfect. Every single piece that he had was wonderful and really great in attacking. So what happened? What did white mess up in this position? Well, black played d6. So here's the first question. Could anyone tell me what white should do? I mean, again, take a moment to think about it. I don't want you to just jump in. So what should white do right now? Take a moment to think. It's a good position. It's a really important position. But what should white do next? You can learn a lot from these classical games. I agree. But you also need to learn to know what you're learning from. And what I mean by that is in every classical game, there's a theme. If you're aware of the theme, it's going to make it very easy for you to know what to study. So what to do at this point? Now, as I see the suggestion of bishop takes to the f6, disrupting the black's pawn structure. Interesting. I quite like it. Bishop takes f6. Let's do it that way. Did white do it? Absolutely. We need to be thinking about those kind of big tactical moves, even if they don't look perfect, because truth be told, those are the kinds of moves that we need to attack with. So now white is doing exactly that. He sets up the attack and he makes it work quite nicely. So let's take a look and see what's coming next. Bishop takes f6. Perfect idea. So what happened? Well, actually, that was right. And Nimzowitsch did not miss that. Now, what he really missed comes in a few moves from now. Just look at that. This is very, very important. First thing, we definitely do the move of bishop 2 takes to the f6. We have to. Black has got to do now queen takes f6. And then we're doing queen takes to the c6, attacking the rook. This is great. We win a pawn. Almost everything's powerful. White's strategy was very successful. Now, we're going through this game more linearly because really the key moment hasn't happened yet. Even though it looks like white is winning, I think this is the key moment we really got to talk about. And I want you to think once more time about what white should do. Takes. We have the pressure. We got everything right. Now, see, when it comes to attacking, some people don't actually understand the different types of attack. There are slow attacks, which I basically call the gradual attacks, like taking the time to build up the position, the attacking position that you need. There are these fast tactical attacks, which we call the shortcuts and possibilities. Then we actually have what we have as pressuring sequences, moves that just tie him down on the back so that he kind of keeps defending. There are different ways on how to do so. And I think that this is what we need. We got great queen, powerful knight, a rook that's in line. Is knight takes d6 a good move? Could be. But I want you to think, whenever you're going to make a big move, as this one, you must very carefully think about what you're risking. Now, knight takes d6 is losing, because black would take with the pawn and attack the queen. So we can't really do that. Not at all. This is a bad idea. So don't go for a move like knight takes d6. We need a different resource, a different move to take place right now. What else can we do? Take a moment, because this is again one of the big moves. Even though it looks like a nice idea, we can't jump in with that tactic right now. So what else? Again, it's all about threats. It's all about threats. Nothing else matters as much as creating threats. Any type of these attacks that I was talking about always comes down to that idea. Can I make more threats against my opponent? Or can I not? Really, it just comes down to that. That's the fundamental idea. Rook e3, knight d2 is fine. But again, let's think about the opponent's move. Well, I certainly like knight d2. Black is just going to play bishop d5 and he'll feel safe. It's okay, but no, it's not very good. Can we do knight g5? Possible, but then he's going to do the same. So what if, instead of any of those moves, we actually think about knight g3? And that was a brilliant move that Nimzowitsch did not see. What's the difference? Now I'm going to show you the big difference between this and any other moves. When you think of an attacking or a threatening move and you want to make it good, don't focus on whether it's going to create a threat, and don't focus on so much if you can protect or not. These things happen all the time, and that doesn't mean that the attack is going to be good or not. The only thing that matters when you start attacking or advancing is if you've got a good follow-up, like queen b5 right now. If you got a good continuation. See, now there is a big problem for black. The bishop is attacked, queen is attacked, and black is losing. The follow-up is everything. And that's what knight g3 gives, as opposed to any of the other attacking moves that we've got in the position. A strong, continuous follow-up. That's almost a killer when it comes to making it, breaking black's position. One of the big ideas is always this: look on what is the possibility for a strong move that will help you to have a great, effective follow-up against our opponent. And I mean, really, this is big. See, White did not see it. He did not play that move, despite the fact that it looked so good. He played knight e4, and then he fought about a simple rook d1. So the truth is, it's not about can I attack or can I not. We can always attack in one way or another. Believe me, we can. What it's really about is, can you think of a continuation to your attack? Can you think of a move that will help you to apply a serious challenge and continue with that set of threats? So now white does it perfectly, and he has more, much more than black could, what black could hope. So let's see. Rook a d1 anyway. Rook b8. Now white thought about knight g3, but it's different because when we didn't play it in time, black does bishop to the b5, attacking our queen, and it's not the same. Taking e6 means queen takes bishop takes the c. If we take here, he's got queen takes c1, and when we go right back, he's going to take the pawn on a2, and he's good. Knight h5, queen takes to b2, rook b1, and rook e8. So we see not only that white kind of missed the great opportunity, but he lost. And he lost for one more reason. Now you got to know one thing. Attacking is great. That's the best possible plan you can have. We can't always attack, but sometimes we go for it. It means that we'd probably have to sacrifice one or two things, and that is fine. What matters most when we are attacking is to make sure our pieces can work together. That is big. But even more so, make sure you focus just one area of the board where your attention and possibilities are going to play a good role in advancing or challenging, threatening your opponent one way or another. Now that's really huge. It's big, I gotta tell you. It is one of the biggest things that most people were going to actually miss. So how do we deal with that kind of problem? Let's think about what white missed here. Now, one of you asked, why not knight g3, queen d5? Because the rook was there. Couldn't be played. Now, if black played after, you mean if you're talking about this move, queen to the d5, in this case, that wouldn't have worked. And I think that one of the reasons is because after the exchange takes and knight f5, there's the inevitable knight e7 attacking at least a few of the black pieces. So it's pretty big. And anyway, white played rook d1. Here, knight g3, bishop to the b5, queen f3, set up the attack. Queen g5, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. That's a good move. And unfortunately, white missed it. It was powerful. And the reason why it was so powerful was because, like, that moment this move could have come through was the moment where, like, black would have lost it. G7, this whole king side. I mean, let's face it, this is not a pleasant game. It was not going to be. Never. See, the big problem was that white was going to set up all those attacking forces, and black was never in condition to get away from them. The interesting thing about this, or about such a scenario, such a position, is the setup. The amount of forces that we're actually going in this case, and is an amazing thing. And of course, after that type of a move, white is basically advancing perfect. Queen f3 and knight h5. What did Nimzowitsch do? Now we're talking about one of the greatest masters of the past, one of the greatest masters, messing it up. See, that doesn't happen too often. Great master, messed it up. He played rook b1. And once again, think about this. Deviation is one of the greatest problems of most chess players. They hardly stay focused. When you're attacking, every move matters. Every tempo counts. So that means every move you do is going to be important either to your plan or to the way and how you progress your plan or advance with it. That apparently was a just one the major reason why like white didn't play it too well. And so it's a big thing. Concentrate on getting your attack going on that side of the board where you're really set out to improve, to attack, and to do anything out there. So that's what we need. Well, The truth is, it didn't work exactly like that, and so let's see how that worked. In fact, actually, after that type of a move, then we get this rook to the b1, which was pretty interesting. Then let's see, rook to b1, black plays rook e8, and then white plays queen to the g3. Strong attack, nice challenge. The knight is actually coming forward. Once again, big mistake. Why? Why the hell is this a big mistake? What's the problem with that? Well, I think that, you know, the real problem, so to speak, is that despite the fact that white gets to move with queen to the g3, and just it's a nice move, I would like to admit, and I'd like to recommend that you focus on something a little bit different. Now, what do I mean? What do I mean by this? Even though you might want to have quite a few pieces together, to jump and advance and pressure and do everything, the most important thing of all is look at the continuation of that, because you see, the continuation is most necessary. And in such a position, when we go ahead with a move like, say, queen to g3, you get to see that black will play probably with rook takes d1, pawn to the g6. If we play with knight f6, black can do king to the g7, and even we can do knight to the h5 check. Black would just play king g8. We're just gonna continue going with a couple different checks, and there's nothing else. In fact, in the end, it went into draw like that. Check, check. White kept on checking. In the end, when black tried to hide, white played with queen f3, g takes f, queen f6 check, and it ended up in a draw. So let's go back. How could white just change this in a way? Could he have done something different? Yes, he could. It was a great idea. Well, I didn't see it, but it was very, very important. So what should white have done in that moment? It's a great question to talk about. Hmm. The really interesting part about this is that white is wonderful, but is queen g4 going to be good, or rook takes b5? No. Let me say something really interesting about this. After rook to the e8 was played, yeah, we can do queen g3. It's not. See, I'm going to tell you something really key about positions like that. One of the big things you want is to actually think of a move or idea that will help you to stabilize. Now, that's a bit crazy to talk about this, because really, stabilizing, I thought that it's all about time, and it's about who's faster. True. But if you want to be faster, in a way, you have to do this gradually. It's interesting. You have to be fast, and yet at the same time, you want to do it a bit slower. Crazy. But the move was rook c1. That was a really necessary move that unfortunately white did not do. If this move happened, would have been a good defense on c2, a good attack against the b2, and a perfect command. So now in case black plays with something like queen to the a3, we can have queen g3 taking place, g6, knight f6 check, forcing the black king to go away so we can finally take down the rook. And we could do it greatly. Most important thing, stabilize. Secret of attacking is not making sure that we have the most brilliant attack that will come out against the opponent, but what we must have, is the chance to solidify our position, to keep everything safe and sound, so we can go forward and reach out the opponent. So that's what rook c1 would have done. Good defense, good challenge. Queen g3 to focus on and do next, and we can continue with moves like knight to the f6. So it's a perfect, really good idea. Now, instead of that, the rook c1 h3. No, h3 is too slow. We can't do it like that. We don't want to in this kind of position. So it's very important. What we're going for in that moment is just a little simple move. Rook to the c1, good idea. Solidity. Queen g3 was going to be a great way to go. And okay, so what comes next in that position? Basically, black plays with. Let's see. So here we go. Black is going to do the move. He actually played the rook to the c1. No, instead of rook c1, it was queen to the g3. Sorry. Rook takes c1. Rook takes c1. g6. No stability. So we did not solidify the position. Secret number one. If you're having a good game and you're thinking about how do I make it work better in the best way possible, solidifying is going to be key. So in any case, actually, I'd like to. I'm glad I got to show you these principles. Now, I would like to also recommend the full course of the man who inspired me to be a chess trainer and essentially who gave me the ability to be so good as a player. I mean, I never became a grandmaster, but I was close, and then I decided to teach because I was so inspired. It's Grandmaster Roman Djindjashvili's DVDs, and more specifically, the Romans Lab. So if you check the link below this video, you're going to see a special link for an incredible 50% discount. I think maybe even more. So of Grandmaster Roman's actual course, a full course. This is the full course. It is brilliant. It's only available for a couple hours, and it's the entire collection, 117 DVDs, each being around, I don't know, like 7 or 8 hours long. I mean, this is an incredible. It's offered at an incredible price, actually. So it's offered at $100 instead of 900, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. So 170, 100, like $1 every DVD. It is brilliant. I recommend you checking that out because this is an amazing deal, and you certainly don't want to miss it. $100 for 100 DVDs of a Grandmaster, and again, they're great DVDs. He has a lot of opening suggestions. I love his opening suggestions, but also he explains a lot about secrets of middle game, including Aron Nimzowicz's actual middle game course. So don't forget to check it out. It's only available for the next few hours. So now let me show you another really instructive game. I mean, this one was quite cool. By the way, for those of you who want me to send you the game with some of my annotations and thoughts and stuff, please don't forget to like send an email to me on valeri.lilov@gmail.com. I'd love to send you those suggestions. And then, okay, so there it is. Or maybe you can just see my site, which is tigerlilov.com. So you can take a look at that. All right, so thank you. Now let's take a look at another game from the Nimzowitsch course. So what is this one all about? It's about something very interesting. So just a second, let me clear this one out. Here we go. So the next one that I want to show you is the best way to blockade. Now, how do you use blockade in chess? It's a big question because Nimzowitsch talks a lot about blockade, but it's not clear to many people how to do it. So let me show you. Here we go with a very instructive example of Nimzowicz's book. What is this one all about? Well, first of all, this is a position in which White has already gotten a great setup. And so we have a beautiful, wonderful, like bishop on the e5. We have a, like knight on the f3 that seems to be, like pretty good at there. And you see, so actually, White has applied what we call as a blockade. So First and foremost, what is the best plan for white to continue in this position? So let's see if you can give me some actual suggestions on what white should do at this point. Think about that and let me know. Okay, so in case you're wondering who is to move, okay, that's a fair question. If you're wondering who is to move, basically white has already done the blockade. Everything's done greatly, to admit. And he needs to decide what to do now. I mean, one idea could be, of course, to exchange the bishop, but black is just going to recapture, so this one is going to help him. So white needs to figure out an optimal plan to strengthen and make sure that he can keep the blockade online. How to do that now? I'd like you to think about this very carefully and come up with the best suggestion. Exchange takes, no, cannot do the knight e5 because it's going to drop the knight, as you were saying. So exactly, you can't do that right now. Knight d4, not a bad idea, but then black's just going to take our bishop on e5, and it wouldn't work too well. I don't think so. Bishop d4 can be played, although black will likely do queen to c7, and he's going to be quite okay. Rook e1 and knight d4, possibly too, yeah. But okay, so what do we want to do in that position? Can we do that? We could. I mean, of course. But you know, this is actually a pretty strong example. First thing, when you have a position like that, do not hurry. The blockade is never done to guarantee us an immediate advantage. Okay, it's never going to happen. So what we need to do is to think about you know, like first and foremost, we have to finish up the development. Rook e1 is perfect. So we start with the basic idea. What you need to do is finish the development. See, it's never about attacking the opponent, or at least not in the way you might want to do it. It is much more about really preparing and setting up our pieces in a way so that we have the control. And this is a great idea now. We have the rook on e1 defending the e5, which is good. And that bishop of ours is also pressurizing the f6 as well as g7. Little by little. See, it's never about attacking. Blockade, as well as anything positional, is about building up to the point where you're actually going to have an attack take place. This is very important to understand. We cannot succeed with an early attack, especially at this stage of the game, early middle game. Now remember the 3 stages of any successful plan. The 3 stages of any successful plan always happen to be develop, and prepare, and attack. Develop, get your pieces out, strengthen them, make them more advanced, and attack means, well, attack is attack. Just get them somewhere so that they could really, or they could actually realize different sort of tension and shots against our opponent. That's how we want to do it. Very important thing. Now let's see how did the game develop next. So after rook e1, let's suppose that black will play now rook to the d8. See if anybody could give me a suggestion on what white should do next. What is white's best idea to go by now? Anyone? We can do queen e2. We can do, you know, like a4, or even queen c2. No, those moves don't seem to be hurting your position in any way. Should white do it? You know what? I do think that we could. Certainly, it wouldn't hurt us if we do. So did white do it? No. See, as part of advancing your plan, one of the most valuable things that you'd like to be looking at are candidates that are just is a very, very valuable thing to do. Attacking. Again, attacking, threatening, pressuring, doing anything that can help you out with this. So, what is our best way to go about it? Well, most certainly the best way to go about this is with bishop to the d4. It's beautiful, beautiful. Bishop to the d4 is wonderful to play with. Now the black queen apparently has to go back, and then white can play knight e5. What blockade is about, it is always about, when blockade is in place, it's always about one thing. Can I pressure him? Pressuring the opponent means that you take those pieces and you grab the most necessary and the most advanced squares for each one of them. And so we get that knight up there. We have the extra pressure, and we are applying beautiful tension against both the d7 and the resulting pieces that he's got back there. So now e5. Now that's a great move. Now black actually has a lot to worry, so he plays bishop e8. He comes back. See how we make him to realize those bad candidates, those bad moves in this position. So it's like we make him to go down there. We make him to feel more backward. And now comes another really important moment. How to use all this. Because you see this, the fact that we stand well is great. But standing well does not mean that we could win. So remember that. Standing well means that you're in a good position. But how to carry on? Good question. F4, rook e3, like all, absolutely. More importantly, we'd like to develop. Remember, begin with the pieces that are worst placed. Like ask yourself, what do I really need? I mean, think about that. What does white really need? He needed a lot of things, that's true, but he most importantly needs that queen of his, because without it, there's just nothing we can do. So now when the queen comes out of it, it's we got a great position for it onto this diagonal. We can have a great possibility. We've got the resource, and little by little, our pieces are excellent. So, for example, after continuing with the move of bishop to the h5, given that we have this like support, we got nice shot, challenges, whatever we needed. So now after queen c2, he plays bishop h5. White can simply play f4. And you could see why it's all really about. The deal is keep him back. It's not about whether it's good or not, how it looks like, and what it doesn't look like. Can you make it work? Can you make the pressure happen? So we've got that rook eventually coming down towards the h3. We've got the queen and the bishop together. We've got the other rook ready to come out as well. And while black is still trying to figure out a way to keep up with everything, we got an excellent setup, a great sequence in this type of position. And so this is very interesting. After that type of a move, essentially black is in a big trouble. So let's take a look and see, after the move of bishop to the h5, pawn up to the f4 as it happened, black plays rook c8. And what must white do next? Mm-hmm. Anyone? G4. No, not G4. It's too early. See, G4 may be okay, but first think about what your opponent's doing. When you're in an advantageous position, I think the most valuable question you got to begin with is, what is he trying to do? Where is he going? What is he threatening? Sometimes he's not going to be threatening anything. That's great. But when he is, or if he does, you need to be aware of it. Actually, this is very, very valuable. In this case, what we'd like to do is actually make sure that we defend. So, this is quite important. First move that we'd like to be doing, pawn a3. Great, simple, and beautiful to do. With that in mind, we understand that black is going to be he's going to have a little bit of a too much trouble with the, like with this. Maybe our rook is going to come quickly onto that rank, and we have great setup. Yeah. So in fact, after the move of pawn to the a3, so essentially, if the rook pawn to a3, we have the good defense, and we keep the opponent limited. That's what I mean by restriction. Restriction is simply taking away the good possibilities from our opponent, so that he doesn't limit our position. So okay, so this is what I would recommend and how you can play it. Now, do we need to see how white wins? No. Essentially, White's plan is pretty clear. He's just going to build up with that rook towards the e3 and h3. We're going to have the h7. We're going to stay together, and then we're going to get more official attackers on the line. But it was just wonderful to set it up and see how that works this way. So I'd like to show you another idea from Nimzowitsch and what Grandmaster Roman actually brings about Nimzovich's ideas. So just give me 1 second. Okay. So Nimzovich's approach, and one of the unique ideas why I think that his book is, or his books are great, is because what he brings is an idea. How do you prevent the opponent from advancing or attacking you? So we could talk about our own attack, but how do you kind of stop or hold him back when he's intending to jump and go against you? So this is what I'm actually going to try to show you with this next game. So give me 1 second. By the way, once again, if anybody wants me to send you these PGNs with those examples and the principles and commentary associated, please do send me an email to valeri.lilov@gmail.com or just directly on my website, tigerlilov.com. I'd love to share with you my own thoughts and ideas on these. So let's talk a little bit about this next game that happened between Nimzowitsch and someone named Van Millet. I'd like you to flip the board. Okay, so here it is. I flipped the board. This is actually with an annotation of Grandmaster Stephen Ward, and it was brilliant because White's intention here was to play with Queen G3, H4, G5. So he wanted to just keep the attack going. So now Black must make a really important decision. And that decision is to really find out how to respond the invasion of White's pawns and pieces towards the king's side. It's not a very easy thing to do, but we got to find out how. So I'd like to know your thoughts and suggestions, so please bring them up on the chat. White's intention's clear. Queen G3, H4, G5. Potentially he can play F5 or F6. I mean, afterwards, it's going to be a disaster. If we let him do this, we're dead. So it's really about how do we stop that from happening? How does black stop or hold off this idea? Good, very important question. Hmm. Now, I get a lot of suggestions, but one of them is knight h7. Yes. Taking the opportunity to prevent white from reaching out on the king side is exactly what we need to do. Because if white plays alongside with the move of pawn up to the for the h4 and g5, in case of the exchange retake, he's going to step forward. He's going to really advance out there, and we can't do it. I mean, we should not be doing it in this way. So this is interesting. And so the first thing, apparently, it has got to be that knight going right back there. So how do we do that? Knight h7, straight. Now, the really interesting part is that white will do a move of knight f3 in this moment, and then we play queen e7. Queen g3, rook fe8. So you see the pattern of blockade being used immediately in order to do the defenses. Not just like, oh, hey, this is a good move. It's a good move, true. But that's not all we want. Let's block. With that in mind, black sets up a brilliant blockade immediately at the g5 square. And as white simply cannot push anymore, we just do it well. Blockade is interesting because it could be used with, it could be done with pawns. And that's one of the reasons why I say that one of the biggest secrets of the opening is never in knowing that many lines or that much theory. It is much more about knowing how to put your pawns right. Because your pawns can blockade many of the opponent's pieces, as well as give you the structure or the formation that you need so you can be successful. It's a very interesting concept. It's very, very interesting concept. Most people don't do it. See, so the best idea is even if it's just an early stage, if it's the beginning of the opening game, think about that. How do I get to manage my own pawns in a way so that they limit or restrict the opponent more effectively? And that's done quite beautifully right now. Now, of course, at a certain point, I believe that white will do g5. But it's a different question whether that actual move is going to help him to win or whether it's just going to be, like a back passive move. Rook a1, queen b7. Now white set up his own rook on the e1. And then after rook to the e1, what would you guys do as black in this position? Think about it. I mean, it's a wonderful, excuse me, this is a wonderful looking position for black. The extra tension that being created against e4 ties him down. He's got backside downward pieces. So where do we go next? Counterattack in the center, but we can never open in the center. I mean, that's not a bad idea. I like the idea of opening in the center, but we can't do it. It's just out of the question at the moment. Center is locked. It's closed by him, and thereby impossible for us to reach out or advance there. So what to do now? Anyone? Interesting. Rook c8. Yes. What happens if white plays bishop c1? I think that he's planning to. See, he just defended the pawn on e4, but he's certainly planning to do bishop c1. Here's the thing. First thing, you have to get out of the danger. And I'm not talking about protection. Protection is one way to do it. Blockade is one way to do it. But you can block only to a certain extent. You can never keep the blockade for too long. What happened here is that black moves his king right out in order to free up the road of his two rooks. And so you can now realize that by playing or going to think with a move of rook h8, perhaps the other rook is going to come out. We can think g6, and in case white exchanges rook takes g6 is going to help to pressure the g4. It is a great looking move. It's a very nice spacey idea, and that's about it. Rook h8. The whole attacking plan really comes around toward g6. If we can do it, it's going to work, and it's going to be nice to look into it. So after the move rook h8, next move, black felt safe. Even if g5 happens, we see that the whole attacking idea was to blockade. Grandmaster Word says to blockade white, so we now have the rook really going down. And we got g6, which can to counterattack. The king can go safely to the queen side. That's blockade. Pawns are incredibly important to do that thing in the early stage. So do not forget them. When you're playing the opening, when you're playing the middle game, give your pawns the highest possible priority, because then they can help you a lot. And what I'd like to talk to you about right now is one of the other things that matters a lot, and it's actually a small idea, small example from Nimzowicz's book, as well as Grandmaster Roman's different thoughts on this. Basically, we talk about what's the key to endgame. Now, to any of you, there is really no super secret that we could say, oh, here we go. So Valeri's going to show us right now the most incredible thing I should know about Endgame. No. However, what I'd like to do is to show you a great guideline. This is an Endgame by Tartakover. And the truth is that White has to figure out an ultimate way how to improve. To give you a little hint, in the game, White played King G1, King G7, King F1, Bishop C6, and so on. And he really did never get something out of this endgame. Black was able to dominate with the two bishops. So my question to you is, if you have to think about this structure and the situation from White's side, exactly what do you think is the more efficient way on how White can improve or better his position at this point, or make it as good as it should be? It's a really interesting query. Please take a moment to think about that. And what is White's efficient way to go? G4, not really. Pawn moves you got to be extremely careful about, because if you make a move like pawn up to the G through a G4, what's going to happen really is that the opponent will likely play bishop to the C6. He can think about D4, and he can feel pretty good about all this. I don't mind it. I just don't like it. And no, knight G1, absolutely. That knight is now going to reach out towards F3, and that's the key. In endgames, that's all about piece activity. If you can make sure your pieces get ready and move on to the more advanced and valuable positions that you need them to be, that's all. This is really everything you want. So, first thing, take on those backside and like a little backward pieces and bring them in. Knight G1, G5, and knight F3 was great because now the knight's coming closer. When the black king, or if the black king comes around, we're just going to be able to play with moves like maybe even bishop to F1, or maybe king to the G1, king F2, king F2. We're ready to reach and focus a little more forward. It's great. The secret of any idea in those kind of positions begins not so much by finding a winning plan or a great tactic or a brilliant sequence, although all those things are great. The secret, it lies within our ability to begin by improving our worst placed piece and set it up in a better position. It's that simple. but it's really beautiful. Now the king can go forward, the knight can eventually go around, and the rook can become a little bit improved too. So white made it beautiful on the f3. Start with that. You're going to see that almost every end game is going to be great for you if you focus on that one idea. In any case, I am glad that we got to talk about these little principles today. And once again, do not forget to check the link to this amazing 117 DVD course for $100. It's an incredible deal with a top grandmaster who's been one of the most famous chess teachers. You might find it incredibly great to take a look. Do not forget to check it out. And of course, if you want to send me any like of your games, or if you want me to send you those those examples, please feel free to message me on my email, which is valeri.lilov@gmail.com, or just visit my website, which is tigerlilov.com. I want to thank you all for joining me today, and again, if there is anything else that I could help out and you some more specific personalized suggestions, please let me know. Thanks so much, and look forward to talking to you very soon.